Good morning, it's January 17th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. The American public has lost trust in government. Some of this can be attributed to the vitriol that emanates from politicians on both sides. Over and over, we're warned to beware of the other party. Democrats have spent the past 8 years calling Donald Trump a fascist, a Nazi, a Russian colluder. They constantly tell the public that Donald Trump and by default Republicans are tyrants and will take away their constitutional rights. Republicans are a little better, but they do not escape blame. They call Democrats socialists and even communists sometimes. They also tell the public that Democrats will take away their rights. In the latest polls, Congress has an approval rating of 26%. You heard that correctly. It has a disapproval rating of 67%. And those numbers are below the ratings for Joe Biden, which I didn't think was possible. The public does not believe that Congress is doing what they want done and seems only interested in gaining power and retaining power. Members of Congress come to Washington espousing ideas about how to change Congress, but quickly fall into the trap of running for re-election, and that becomes the most important job they have. Campaigns cost more and more money, so the average member of Congress spends several hours a day trying to raise that money. And I was part of that game while I worked in Washington. As a staff member in the Senate, I assisted the elected official I worked for in raising money. I traveled with him on multiple occasions to raise money in other cities. As someone that ran a government relations office for a major corporation, I attended fundraisers using the company's political action committee to make donations to members who we felt were either important to the company or who had supported issues important to the company. As an independent lobbyist, I had to reach into my own pocket and make thousands of dollars in contributions each and every year to members who were helpful to my clients. Those donations are not tax deductible, it's just the cost of doing business. If you look at Congress, you see more and more geriatrics running the country. Why is Nancy Pelosi still hanging around Congress? Why is Mitch McConnell still serving in the Senate at almost 90? They get there and it becomes their life, and they have nothing else to identify with. So they keep on running, and we, the public, keep on electing them on name recognition. So we are complicit in those low ratings because we don't step up and vote them out of office. There are options out there. We can make the necessary changes. We hear a lot about term limits, and I've gone back and forth on this issue. My former partner, Matt Salmon, a Republican from Arizona, was elected to Congress in '94 and promised to leave after 6 years. He was winning his Arizona seat with 65% plus of the vote, but he kept his promise and left. Some years later, he was convinced to run for his old seat. He left the firm and ran. He won again, but he only stayed 4 years because he realized his time had come and gone, and it was up to somebody else. North Carolina's legislature recently passed a congressional term limits resolution in bipartisan fashion. The Tar Heel State is the third one in 2024, joining Louisiana and Tennessee, to make this kind of vote. Voters' momentum favors limiting the amount of time those elected Congress can serve. That's a crucial step toward getting better times ahead. A recent Pew poll revealed that 86% of Democrats and 90% of Republicans favor some form of term limits for Congress. Voter displeasure with Congress and support for term limits are arguably related. To understand why, we should never forget that while being elected to Congress has little relation to success while in Congress, those who seek election frequently promise change and all manners of plans meant to throw the bums out while disrupting business as usual. Doesn't matter if the base of voters swing right or left, people want to be told their vote will bring about change, only for reality to mug the would-be change agents. Upon being sworn in, the newly elected to Congress quickly realize they're going to change little to nothing, and they won't because power in Congress resides in the hands of the very few, and the very few attain that power through a demonstrated ability to work well within the system, to raise funds for those promised to throw out in the first place, and to gain seniority, only for a status quo that has authored the growth of more and more government to run roughshod over those promising change. The power in Congress, I said, resides with the senior members, and they wield it with authority. Why do you think someone like Nancy Pelosi was able to help force Joe Biden out of the race? Republicans have made some reforms that are helpful. They have term limits on how long you can be a chairman or ranking member of a committee, and this is applicable in both the House and Senate. Democrats have no such limits. They just keep on having the power. Once you lose that power of being a chairman, most end up retiring from Congress. If you limit a member of Congress to 6 years, that's 3 terms, it eliminates the desire to amass the power and keep it. The downside is that power then moves to the staff. They've been there and they know the rules, and it takes a long time for somebody to really understand it. I would suggest that the limit be 12 years in both the House and the Senate. That's more than enough time to do what you promised to do when first elected. It also tells you that you need to prepare to return for a normal life. Don't count on spending it in Congress. Congress has the power to enact term limits themselves. They can do this by simply passing legislation accomplishing this goal. The second way to limit service in Congress is to pass age limit. I've been a big proponent of having age limits for both the presidency and for Congress. And I think the appropriate age would be 72. Age catches up to all of us in different ways. We've seen the cognitive decline of Joe Biden while he's in office. There are some that are still strong at that age, but we run the risk of having elected officials who are failing that way. Dianne Feinstein was a brilliant woman, a wonderful legislator, but in the end, she had no idea where she was. She is just one example, and I could name multiple others. To put an age limit, similar to the age minimums we have for office, would require a constitutional amendment, and therefore it's highly doubtful these geriatrics would vote themselves out of office. For that reason, I guess I'm going to go back to supporting a 12-year term limit. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. I'm not sure how long this will be on TikTok. It is on YouTube, and I would urge you to search, if you enjoy the podcast, over on YouTube and go look at it there. Thanks for listening.